All right, what's up, guys? So, for today, Rob and I are going to be talking about some things that are super essential if you are a personal trainer just getting into this, or maybe you've been in it for some time. Some things that we wish that we knew, just to give some guidance and some direction, being a trainer and having a lasting career in this. So, we're really excited to jump into this. It's always excited to talk to Rob.
Yeah, this is something that I really wish that I would have had access to when I was younger. First, like being like, "Oh my God, I have a bicep. I should go teach other people to have biceps too." And I think what's kind of unique to some of the input I can give here is that I started in 2011, which is like 14 years ago now, and my gosh, has the game changed.
Mhm.
And I just, yeah, like I did, there are so many things in this industry that I did not think about, know about, or even back then. And like, again, like the start of it there was no Instagram, like there was nothing like that. And it was it was the Wild West back then. And there were a lot of things that even when I went to school and did higher level certifications, I did not anticipate and struggled with, or some things that I was really, really good at that I didn't see coming. And, you know, when I first got into it, yeah, it was 2011. I remember looking out airplane window on a flight, I think flying Toronto to Miami or something in with my old career. And I remember thinking like, yeah, I'm pretty good at working out. And I think a lot of people back then came from this. It was like, oh, I'm pretty good at getting muscles and I'm pretty good at feeling good. And you're like, well, I would want someone to teach me this. So I got into it for that reason. And I'd played hockey growing up. And I thought, I know everything. I have what I thought at the time were big muscles. I was a young kid, and my gosh, I got absolutely flattened by the real world. Never thought about a client maybe not liking an exercise. Never thought about a client having to reschedule. Never thought about my life not being organized enough to then facilitate someone's
Mhm.
massive goals. It comes with maturity, but I think step one. Okay, let's break this down. Step one. You want to become a trainer. What's your why? So
Mhm.
throwing it over to you, Bryce, what was the why that got you into it? And let's build off that.
Oh man, I think this goes pretty far back. If I think about the time that I've been into training for, I would say the why would go as far back as to helping one of my really good friends lose some weight. And I was pretty young. We had some equipment in our home gym, and he was maybe 260. He was at a pretty low point in his life though, and I was working out at that point, and he was like, "Hey man, I want to start getting to the gym." And then I started just like teaching him what I knew, which at that point in time it was not much. It was stuff that I had learned online, bodybuilding.com, right? Just again, looked up a bunch of articles, did a bunch of research, but a lot of trial and error. And he trusted me, and he ended up losing like 100 pounds. Obviously, that was him, not taking credit for that at all, but it felt cool to be involved, right? And it felt cool to be trusted and for someone to look up to you and want guidance and support. And if I think back to my career, I think that was the pinnacle moment for me when I realized that, oh, this isn't just a hobby. This is something that I want to do. And then I had some internal conflict, obviously. You know, you hear things from your parents. I was very influential at that time. So obviously, whatever my mom or my dad said, I took it to heart. And they were like, personal training, that's not a career, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't then. It was
Yeah.
like it kind of now it has a little bit more of like a history, but I feel
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, back in like 2015 even, like pretty fresh, like fit influence was starting to hit the ground pretty hard, but like I know I would say like 1980, or from what I've gathered, like it was basically just like, hey, that guy's jacked in the gym. You go up to him and ask him what his workout is. And he would, if he was a nice dude, he'd write it down or he'd tell you to fuck off. And then he's like, wait, I can make some money off these programs that are working for me. No individualization, nothing. And we've seen
Yeah.
how now that's so niched. But that's a sick why. And it made me think too, like I remember going to sleep after my first client as an intern, and I felt more fulfilled than I had felt in a long, long time. And I didn't understand that. And I realized, okay, like there is something about helping, using what matters so much to me in fitness, exercise, training, and then facilitating somebody else on that journey. It's like that saying, like, teach a man. or give a man a fish, he'll eat tonight, or teach a man to fish, he'll eat forever. That's what I felt like I was
Yeah.
doing, and I thought, okay, well, I never thought I would ever find something that made me feel the same way that like skateboarding or performing live music made me feel, and this was that. So I knew pretty fast. Then I knew nothing. I went to a
Oh, dude.
gym. I went to a gym in Orange County. I had a couple muscles. I had a great attitude, I thought at the time. And I remember pretty much day two of me. It's funny. Okay, backstory here. I was in Indonesia, kind of like overdoing music at the time. It ebbs and flows in my life, but kind of overdoing music at the time. And I saw an Instagram ad for this gym that I really looked up to down in Huntington Beach, and they needed an intern. And I wrote to him from there. I set it all up. So when I got back, I was in it. And I remember day one, he was like, okay, hey, this is my client, went to high school with him. Here's his folder. Go. And I was like, hey man, like you want to talk about the Dodgers or something? Like I just didn't really know what to do, and this wasn't the
Yeah.
kind of gym where they were like, oh, you got, before you even touch someone, get a cert. It was just like, just you've played sports, know what you're talking about, do being kind of an influence. And that's what I did. I started being like, hell yeah. I think the guy's name was Murray. Sick name. He was like, all right. And I remember, I think about it every day. He was doing T-bar row, and I was like pretty impressed. The guy had 3 plates on there, and I think I had done some barbell rows or some deadlifts in my life, and I was like, oh, this is a sick thing. This guy's awesome, you know. And I remember just being like, hell yeah, man. And he was really dying on the last couple sets, or the last couple reps, and he got through it, and he was like, hey man, I appreciate that. He gave me the fist bump, and that was it. Done. As soon as he gave me that fist bump, I knew I was in. Like this is what I want to do. So through the grand scheme of the universe, I ended up back in Canada, and I had heard the word like CanFit Pro for certifications. I knew I had an option to do a NATE program. I had some friends from hockey that had rolled through that. And
Yeah.
then there would be, the 6-month ELA program, which I've
Yeah.
seen great trainers come out of, or you'll get Kines, and decide if this is your hopping stone or stepping stone or what. So the next step was deciding that I would find a gym to be a trainer at. And then from that step, I was going to see what they required for certification. So, what did it look like for you, man? Like, what was after after you got that incredible success with them, like, was the next, like, oh, this is what I'm going to do now? Or was it more gradual?
Oh, man. It was definitely more gradual still. So I would say I had that whole thing, and that's when I was still pretty new to training myself. Like I didn't have any like degree of like official education. A lot of it was just for my own sake, and just because I enjoyed training. And then I actually got in the trades for a while. So I was actually
Yeah.
like, so I actually like got into electrical, did electrical for a while, and it's kind of a crazy moment actually.
Quick pause. Have we talked about this before? Because I actually got into electrical all the way through as well. I apprenticed as an electrician.
No, we didn't talk about this actually.
So, organic pod moment.
Yeah,
Alan, we both same middle name, and we both used to be electricians. Hell yeah, let's go.
so weird.
Yeah, man. Okay.
But yeah, I had a buddy who, oddly enough, he's the one that got me into working out, and he was the one that got me into the podcast. He had like someone that he knew that worked with this electrical company, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're looking for like laborers, and potentially could lead to like a apprenticeship, right?" So I was like, "Okay, cool, yeah, I'll give it a go." And I mean, it wasn't really something that I wanted to do per se, but at that time, like just hearing from my parents, hearing from whoever that personal training wasn't a career that you'd be able to sustain and survive in, I had it in my mind that, okay, well, I can't do coaching, right? I
Yeah.
have to, like, maybe it's a pipe dream. Okay,
Hmm.
cool, whatever. But I have to find something that's more sustainable and something that's going to give me, again, money to actually survive. So then I got involved in electrical. I did it for 3, 4 months. And funny enough, the day that my boss offered me my book, I quit.
That day.
So, yeah, so it's an interesting story. I was doing it and I was working with one of these, like I think it was a third year or fourth year, and I had a talk with him. I was like, "Hey, man, can I be honest with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, of course. What's up?" And I was like, "I don't know if I really want to do this." And he was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Honestly," I was like, "I love working out." I was like, even on these days that I'm bagged, I still go train after work. I still go home after that and get ready for the next day. I haven't missed any workouts. I still enjoy working out, and it hasn't robbed the passion of that.
Hmm.
And he was like, he gave me some very honest feedback, and he's like, well, why don't you pursue that?
Yeah.
And for me, it was a pretty big moment, and I kind of was like, okay, well, I guess why not? So yeah, then after that, yeah, I was offered my book, and I was like, hey, I gotta like really just kind of honestly here decline.
Yeah.
Um, he was shocked because obviously like it was funny because he said that I did a good job too. So like we just done a job on like a residential job, and I was like doing a bunch of like plugs and switches and stuff.
Yeah,
Nothing
man.
crazy, but like, we just did like a rough in, and I did a decent job doing it. He's like, I want to get offer you your book, yeah, and I quit. And
Yeah. That's
I went
so
home
crazy.
that day. Went home that day. My parents were like, "How's work?" Quit my job,
Yeah.
and I remember the disappointment. Now, my parents listen to this, they'll be able to
Yeah.
definitely understand this. Like, I remember the disappointment. I had no plan. It was very impromptu, very spontaneous, and I was like, they're like, they're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I'm gonna get into a gym, work at the gym, even if it's front desk for a while.
Yeah.
Understand the like how a gym works, maybe some of the behind the scenes stuff, figure out what I want to do for schooling, and go from there. And that was it.
Yeah. You actually brought up a sweet point there too. I'm still kind of shocked about this electrical thing. The same thing. I loved residential, drilling out a new residential, pulling the wire and tying in everything before it was live.
I can't believe
And
we never discussed this before.
I know, and the guy that I worked for, I train him now. So
That's so
he's one of my
funny.
great friends, yeah. But you brought up a great point, and I can tie it back into kind of what my journey was here. And I didn't really know how to get into a gym, and I had a lot of anxiety about approaching people, and I also had an ego issue from, yeah, like the band I was ending. I was recognizable from that. The band I was in was going, yeah, I was going away, or not going away. I was going on more of a hiatus. I still was young mid 20s, I guess, at that point, and I didn't want to be like the thought of somebody seeing me like ripping a movie ticket or doing anything that wasn't being on like much music seemed like unbearable for me. Even though I knew, I was like, you got to do something else. So when I told my parents I was going to do it, they were pretty happy. They were kind of like, well, you've already left high school to be in a band, and we got we did okay with that. You quit hockey to skateboard, like this is kind of a sweet step for you. Like the music will always be there, but this seems like a really, and most of my family is a healthcare people, so it kind of fit. But I had a friend that I knew from the music scene, not from working out at all. I think we had chatted about how they had played some ringette or something growing up. They'd got not, I guess it would be like, I mean, anybody listening to this is going to understand the consult process of gyms now, but they signed up people at World Health, they were called FCs, I think, back then,
Yep.
fitness consultants. Yeah. And then, get your
Yep.
membership, get you with a trainer. And she was my in at that place. And I went for an interview, and I told them, I was like, look, I've worked as a trainer down in California, and I think a lot of people saw that and stereos and took a chance on me without any because I still had no certification really at this point. Nothing that worked in Canada anyway.
Hmm.
And they started me there with the understanding that within, your first 90 days, you can get can fit. And all I had was people around me telling me that can fit's the easiest thing in the world. Oh my God, you just have to demonstrate a squat, which is the stupidest advice I've ever taken in my life. Oh my God. Like that was bad. I got rocked on that. And I'm not a dumb guy. And I got rocked with that stupid attitude.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to bring up though is I started to notice I decided I wanted to be a trainer. Um, got in down in California, realized I really liked it, came back to Canada, and all of a sudden I'm now hired wearing the classic old World Health Star Trek outfit that they used to put us in. But the big thing is I got into that trainer back room and I met my colleagues, and I just thought they were such cool people because we had this one thing in common, and the pursuit of the horizon, that how can we get better? And I knew I had found another home, and I felt that guilt. I felt a lot of guilt about not being in my music people anymore, and like those guys will be my best friends forever, but I was finding my new crew basically in similar mind. But what I didn't think about was a consult. I didn't even cross my mind how I would get clients, and I had already kind of experienced like my buddy's gym and him just letting me take over his people. I didn't think about the consult process. So I learned the consult, and I realized there are so many more facets to this. And how do I talk to people? I honestly just assumed these people would come into the gym and be like, cool, make me jacked. Take Rob. he'll do it for you, you know. But there was a lot more to it. And tell me about that first experience for you, like when you were Good Life first, right, man?
Yeah. So I think if I go way back, I actually haven't talked about this much on the podcast actually. So I got a job at a gym in Spruce Grove, and it was through a connection that my mom had. And I was at that gym for a while too, but I actually did like this online course before I even did Nate at all. And this was just like some sort of like personal training health course. Did that whole thing. But then after that, I realized, okay, well, I need some sort of actual like legitimate certification, right? Which led me towards doing the Nate program.
Yeah.
So then after that, yeah, it was Good Life. I went into Good Life, and this is an interesting talking point too, right? Like I came out of school thinking I was big shit because I had Nate. I had a
Oh
two-year
yeah.
diploma. I had 2 years of education. I quickly got humbled really fast,
Oh yeah.
right?
Let's get into that humble story.
Yeah, I came out of school, and then I'll speak to it. Like that's when Susie was there. Um, I think Davenport was there. A lot of those trainers, and I was very quickly humbled that I thought CanFit was kind of like this really quick,
Yeah.
easy route to take. And honestly, I didn't know much about it. Now that I've spent way more time in the field and in the industry, I have mad respect for what they do. Um, and I think, we're all just they're all trying to educate just at a different level, right? But yeah, I definitely came out of school thinking like, oh, CanFit's a quick
Hmm.
certification. It shouldn't be there. But then when I saw like how good these trainers are,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I got to eat my words now. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But it was also very, as much as it was kind of like alarming, it was also cool to experience and realize how much there is to still learn and to grow into this field.
Yeah.
And it's like that, like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where you're
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
where you come into it and you think you know everything, and then you realize you absolutely know nothing.
Oh yeah. Like nothing. And that the trainers that I met that first day are still there's very few, there's I think only two or three of us left in the industry from that group back in 2013, but they're heavy hitters in the industry and like extremely heavy hitters, and I still would call them my main core that I would need, if everybody references or just kind of seeing where the industry is going. I saw the potentiality for a lifetime career when I saw that, and that changed the whole scope. And I was still very immature in my head and thinking like, okay, well, people like me, and that's good. So even if I can't figure this out, or like I experienced a lot of imposter syndrome coming from a boy band to being a trainer. I didn't think people would take me serious, or I would be like, well, they just want to train with me to ask stories. But it's like, cool, that's awesome, man. But that leads me to what I was going to say next, which is sales. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
number one thing I hear from people who are great coaches, great, maybe they coach some soccer, coach their friends in the gym without certs, just working out with their buddies, and they have everything it takes to be a great asset to anybody looking to get fit. But the sales thing really scares people away, and it to me is unavoidable when you're in the commercial setting.
Yeah.
And then again in private too, it's obviously a massive part of your job. There's just your only pressure is coming from yourself and not from the big gyms. But it really caught me off guard all of a sudden being told, and this is back then, makes total sense to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Rob, new trainer, people like you, here's your expectations, let's get you to $10,000 a month. And I just like struggled with it. I was scared to ask people for money, which like comes across as not a belief in my own value. I wouldn't even price present at the end of some consults and then have people be like, yeah, and like, how do I start training with you? And be like, oh yeah, okay, I guess we can do that. I've talked myself out of sales. But that was one of those things that caught me off guard. And then I just decided I'm going to lean in heavy to this and just understand. And I'm like, I read some books that like are controversial. Art of the Deal by Trump. I read some Brian Tracy stuff on Art of Selling, I think it's called. I read P.T. Barnum, the guy that did the circus. Like it's called The Art of Money Getting, and it just showed me that like this isn't something you have to be scared about. And what it did at the same time is it it took my imposter syndrome, and all of a sudden I felt like I was an expert in sales. And I was like, okay, I didn't anticipate this getting into it, but I know once people are with me, we'll get results, we'll have a great time training. Even if they're scared of the gym, I just know they'll be comfortable with me. And it started being very, very addictive. It felt the same as if we got a hit song on the radio. I was like, oh my god, I just closed a 3x12 3 times a week. That's a year. And then I started seeing the commissions, and I became obsessed with it. But I would say, and I'm sure it's similar for you, it's the number one thing I hear about people being like, oh, I just don't want to do sales. I just don't want to do sales. And I'd be hiring
Hmm.
people. When I worked for Anytime Fitness after that, I'd be hiring people. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying, but I'm you can't. This is just it's an unavoidable part, and it doesn't have to be bad. It can be one of the best parts about this. What was your experience like with that when the sales demon showed up?
First, I'll kind of give my little thoughts on this, but I do want to speak on it after too, but what helped you overcome the sales fear, because I think that's really important too.
Yeah,
But I'll give my little bits on it first. So, yeah, I definitely came out of school being really uncertain with myself and uncertain with my value. And I think within that too, it's hard to ask for money. So, I think if we look at the root of somebody feeling like a heavy emphasis of imposter syndrome, it's usually a lack of self-belief and self-trust and self-confidence, right?
yep,
So if we think about like the root cause of somebody having issues with sales, it's because they don't know what they're worth, but they likely don't know what they're actually able to provide to that person, right?
yeah,
And if we
exactly.
think about sales, it's really just problem solving. Somebody has a problem, you're trying to provide them with a solution, right?
Yep,
So you got to figure out, okay, well, if this person has this problem, how can I actually help them with X, Y, Z, get them to where they want to be? But again, like when somebody comes out of school, they don't know that, right?
yeah,
But Zach always tells me this, and it really sticks too, is you don't want to be the world's best kept secret.
yeah, yeah. Gosh, you can
So
apply that to so many things.
So it's like, end of the day, you could be a great coach. You could be an amazing coach. You can help your clients immensely. But if you can't market yourself well, if you can't close sales, if you
Yeah,
can't do any of that too, you're not going to have a roster.
yep,
So end of the day, you're not going to have people that you can actually work with. In turn, no money. In turn, you're not going to have a sustainable career in this, right? Um, to kind of segue off of that, I would say that a big thing that helped me is just the sheer volume of being in a commercial gym.
yeah. The volume, exactly.
I think like every good coach should have an exit strategy. Like eventually you should want to leave the
Hmm.
commercial space, either working for yourself, whatever it may be. But I do believe that you get so much crucial experience being in a commercial gym just from that sheer volume and getting tossed into the fire.
Yeah,
You
tossed.
yeah, you have to like you learn how to price object, you learn how to take no's, you learn how to take yeses, you climb the ladder, you get knocked down, right? You have months where you gain 6, you have months where you lose 5. Like you learn so much through that whole experience that I think is very pinnacle for somebody in this personal training realm. And it gives you a good taste of what training is actually like. And I do think that, again, people can be great coaches, but I think that it's often something that really lacks is the sales skills. But I do think, like you mentioned, like finding good resources like books,
Hmm.
podcasts, whatever it may be. But I think a big part of it is just people coming into it not with like not enough experience. They
Yeah,
try to go private almost maybe too soon. They don't know their own skills very well. They're not confident what they can offer, and they don't really know what they can actually do for someone. So then they attach a lot of value towards the price that they're asking, but oftentimes it's a negative thing.
yeah,
And that becomes more of a problem. So I think within all of this, it's like a matter of getting really confident with yourself and what you can actually offer. But I do want to hear more about what you have to say about it too, because I
yeah.
do think that, again, like being someone like yourself where you came into it and you were really nervous, but then obviously you got into like more managerial positions where it's like you have to be good at sales because you're teaching people how to be good at
Yeah.
sales too. So, what was your biggest obstacle or obstacles, and how did you overcome that and then in turn teach?
Yeah. My biggest obstacle will always be myself. And gets better every day, but it came from a place of a lot of, even at the height of music, winning like awards and touring North America, still bad self-esteem, bad self-worth, and that's stuff that had to get addressed. Now, when the band got big, I knew I would have an icebreaker in any situation for the rest of my life. And I challenge myself not to use that now, but it has been a massive part. And I do recognize that I'm very lucky to have that. It was a massive part of sales for me at the start. And I don't know how much of this I probably made up in my head, but I would sit across from like couples that wanted to group train, or just like people I thought like I'd already judged in my head wouldn't like me, that like like you can talk yourself out of a consult before they even sit down. You know what I mean? Like you can really let it get to you. And I felt if I wasn't at 100% in my personal life, that would bleed through and they would be able to tell. But I was lucky that people were like, oh, it was still fresh after stereos, and they knew Summer Girl, and they'd want to chat about that. And they'd be like, oh, wow. Like I started realizing in the talking I was doing and how our conversations and our sessions and the feedback, I would still have imposter syndrome at home and be like, I would lay in bed at night and be like, do these people like their training with me? And like, I mean, I do that with every aspect of my life. But I started to see that I was good at chatting. And I was like, I'm going to lean into this. I'm good at, like, really, this hour goes by fast. And they've, you know, I love queuing. And I find that the energy that I bring into the session is what's exactly I'm going to get back. And I'll hold them up to my level. And being able to access energy when I have none has been the biggest battle, but also so crucial into it. But from this, because I got good at that, I got poached into a management role for 5 years for Anytime Fitness that I just, like, it was crazy, thrown to the wolves, but that's where I honed my sales skills. Now in that, I realized I was good selling for myself and not for other trainers, because I can get someone, you know, like it was great at building rapport and all those things, but then all of a sudden they'd go to a trainer who didn't have the skill set I had, and it was, I could see the friction, and that led to a lot of dissonance down the road. But I think the biggest thing too is that I knew that I knew at this point that I knew nothing, and that was huge for me. I was like, I'm good at this, I have skills, and a couple of people that I look up to in this industry have given me good feedback, and that was enough to keep pursuing. Then
Mhm.
I got sent to Anytime Fitness Island, where I lost my whole group of trainers that really, I just loved going. Even in days I didn't have clients, I would go there and just hang out. I mean, we have that situation at the vault now, but at my first World Health, we all played on like slow pitch team together, and we all had social events outside. So I all of a sudden went to an Anytime Fitness situation that was 24 hours, me sitting in an office, training a little bit, but it was tough. Built that up. But there was one thing you mentioned there that I really wanted to go back to, just on the kind of the correct steps to do this, is if you have that love for the industry, that's a good thing. And I think if you have a desire for something, it's yours. You know what I mean? Go get it. Your longing for that shows to me that it's the path, and follow your bliss, you know? So their clients will come and clients will go, and that is the next big thing, is the first client that quits on you, not quits on you, but maybe says, hey, sorry, not a good fit, or I'm not getting what I want. That one really rocked me. And
Oh yeah.
I didn't have many tools in the old emotional toolkit back then, and I took it so personal, to the point where when they were working with their new trainer, and this is so unprofessional of me, and these are the mistakes I made, I would like cold shoulder them and be like, oh, you don't, like, it's like a breakup. And I really started to like get fear of people leaving, abandonment issues. So personal training, being a coach, it almost highlighted all of my areas of my opportunities of growth on the inside myself. You know, it put a mirror to me being this mentor. I'd say all these things. I'd be like, "Oh, you're never out of the fight. One more rep." You know, I loved it. I love positive motivation. And then I'd go on and be like, "Well, why am I not doing this for myself?" You know, so I think now that we see so many coaches on Instagram, we have friends that are trainers, and everybody knows a trainer or has been a trainer at some point. You know, like, there's more references to go off of, and you have a better idea of what it's like getting into. But the fact that and I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I'll sum it up with this: the fact that you have a desire to do it, you want to do it. Let the bad days, bad sessions just slide. Let them roll, and let them just learn from them, and then go into that next session, that next day. It doesn't matter. You're not that same person from that same session. We've both grown, and it's just, there have been so many ups and downs to my career, and I think when I look at any professional or top professionals in their given fields, no one ever was the best all the way through. You know, it was manic lows, like extreme highs. But just bringing it all back around, building off consults, asking for sales, learn about anything you're scared of, just learn everything about it. It's tough. The first step will be the toughest. But if you want to get better at sales, you want to get better at knee rehab, you want to get better at building rapport with strangers, people have been there, people have mastered it, and they've offered that knowledge back, and it is out there. to get.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of great stuff within that too. And I think one of the biggest things, like takeaways from this too, is like work on your soft skills.
Yeah,
Like you could be a great coach, like you could be really good when it comes to knee rehab, shoulder rehab, back injuries, etc. But if you can't like actually talk to people and have those
yeah,
conversations, like that's a thing you need to work on. Especially like this is kind of like going back to that second, that like my last point too. Like in a lot of the consults that I did, the ones that I actually sold were ones where they were spent mainly just talking and getting to know them as a person and having a conversation.
yeah,
When I took the pressure off of this performance, that's usually when I actually close these sales because I think we go into it expecting that it has to go a certain way, right? Okay, we're gonna go through this motivational interviewing process, and then we're gonna transition them to on the floor, right? Then we're gonna go back, we're gonna set the table, then we're gonna like go through this whole process, and then we're gonna actually like it's like a performance, right? And then at the very end, we're gonna get this big sale. It's gonna be this big
yeah,
celebration, right? But as soon as I just realized, okay, this person that I'm talking to today is somebody who wants to see change in their life, and they're having a problem, and you just like level with them and have a talk face to face, person to person, those are the ones that I often sold
yeah,
because they can tell that you're just there for the right reasons. Versus if you go through like again, having a script is great, having a plan is fantastic, but I almost feel that if you go too by the script sometimes,
yeah,
they can feel it and they can feel the pressure. They can feel like that you're almost
yep,
setting it up for certain things. So again, just remember like talk to the person in front of you. Just have a conversation. Try to just like genuinely help them. And I feel like a lot of that comes down to being in the field for the right reasons. And it's funny because I just
yeah,
had this talk yesterday with like my client Ashton, who's just getting into training too, right? And I told him, I'm like, man, you will be successful because you have a good why.
his why is great,
You want
absolutely,
like
yeah,
you want to be. I'm like, you're in this for the right reason. You want to help people. You want to make a difference and make an impact. And if you're a new coach and you have a strong why and you're in this for the right reasons, like you will do well.
yeah. It the the why is so like that's step one. That's step one. It's what, and we always said we want to help people, or we had our own journey. We saw what it did to us, but I love that we always go back to that. You know what I mean? It just shows that humans are awesome and rad at the basic state. We're always like that when all of our wants and needs are met at a basic level. You know,
Yeah.
but the intercession now. So you're at your commercial gym. You're a couple months in. You got your cert done, maybe, maybe not. Maybe you're still in your intern thing, but you're working with people. You're feeling better. Boundaries with your clients.
Ooh.
This is one that got me. This is one that
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is one that has gotten me. I could argue both sides. Now, I used to live and die by my lack thereof boundaries or standards I would set where like within 2 weeks of a client, we're like best friends, know everything about each other. But what that does is, and I would be able to do that, have a very engaged, intimate session and hit all of our goals and get more and get the best work out of them. And it really became a personal part of personal training. But what it did lead to, and there's no blame on any sides, is, message at 3 a.m., text message at 11 p.m. Hey, and it's like, am I your coach? Am I your friend? And I wish I would have set better boundaries at the start with people, and what that looks like. I mean, for a lot of people, the same fear of sales is going to come from the same fear of confrontation. Is like at the end of the day, all people really, really want is good communication. Good, strong communication. This is what we're going to do. This is how we'll get there. This is why we're doing this. And if I hit
Yeah.
those three things, and I will always bring my conversations back. Like some of my clients I've just been friends with for a long time. So we're going to talk about the glory days and what life is like, being parents, those kind of things now. But I think it's important off the bat to be like, hey, this is when I'm available. Thank you for signing up with Rob. You can text me to 7 p.m. I'll always write back. I'll be able to do this. But I really, really take my work life balance very, very seriously, and
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
a family, and that's what I do with everybody now. But I didn't do that at the start, and especially when I hit my stride, I really hit my stride, and I really filled up my roster, and my phone became my enemy because it was just constant throughout the day, scheduling, rescheduling, why isn't this happening? What should I eat of this? And I felt overwhelmed and I burnt out. And I've burnt out, 3 to 4 times in my career doing this. But I I'm curious to what you do for your boundaries, because I know from my boundaries I learned the hard way. I had some
Yeah, yeah.
fallouts, then I just took on a little bit more emotional baggage than I probably would have needed to had I clearly communicated this is what I want and this is what you need and I need to be successful.
Yeah. I feel as if boundary setting is really challenging, especially in the beginning, like the early stages, because you're so focused on income and revenue
Yeah,
that you see any conversation as potential income.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
for myself anyways, so it's hard to initially set those boundaries because somebody messages you like late, for example, but then you foresee it as, okay, well, if I text this person back tomorrow, they might go another route or avenue. When in reality, that's not necessarily the case. But I do think, like you just mentioned too, like you kind of have to go through a phase where you don't have good boundaries,
Yeah, you do. You do.
and you need to realize the importance of boundaries. And I tell that to like everybody that's like new in this space too. Like you're probably going to be like not knowing exactly what you need for a little bit, and then once you have more experience, you'll understand yourself better. You'll understand like what you need for yourself personally. Because again, like I think you and I can both agree that I've also had issues with boundary setting too, man. Like even again that coach friend dynamic too, or that
Hmm.
coach client relationship, like that's also challenging to try to establish, but also very important to establish. Like there are certain things that are just like off topic, things that we just don't talk about,
Yeah,
and being okay with expressing that to someone and not
yeah,
seeing it as something that's going to like possibly end the dynamic in general, but something to like sustain a healthy dynamic. I
yeah,
think it just depends on like how you choose to view it and choose to see it. But I do think that just like some takeaways here too, like if you get a text late at night, something that I've been doing lately is mark is unread, right? Or just leave it like
yeah,
on, like just like again, maybe you see it, it comes through. I know for myself, sometimes if I don't mark as unread, I'll forget about it.
yeah,
So mark
yeah,
as unread, just come back to it the next morning. It's likely not that dire and that urgent that it can't wait. Especially if it's like, hey man, I was doing this workout. What's a good swap, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, unless you're actually just like already working, but unless it's super dire or urgent, they're gonna likely talk to somebody else anyways.
yeah.
But just do that. And like Rob mentioned before too, I think having a cutoff time of like, okay, there's
A
no
cutoff
work
time.
past this time, there's no work earlier than this time, and just like setting that in stone too, and then trying to do your best to hold yourself to it. There's gonna be times obviously where you're in a good productivity workflow and maybe you're working a little bit past your one time frame or you're working a little bit earlier, because again that's just the business of like being an entrepreneur too. If like these things come to you and you have these possibilities and these opportunities that come and present themselves,
Yep.
you're going to sometimes need to jump on it and go maybe outside of what you have set up for yourself. But I do think to, like you mentioned too, again, to maintain a healthy work life balance, I do believe that boundary setting is really important, but I think oftentimes we forget that part of this is boundaries with ourselves,
Yeah. Big time.
and knowing exactly what that is and knowing like, okay, what do I need to like cut off and like when to cut it off too.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And you're gonna have to do some trial and error to figure out what boundaries the capacity you have, like what works for you and what doesn't for you. Because the capacity I had at 26 compared to 38 is different. Like
Yeah.
I can really dial in a lot more than I used to be able to. But I'm a big fan of turning on my not available switch on my phone where it says notifications off. And like that, it's tough because in my mind back then it was, if I'm not communicating with these people, like, are they losing their value? But again, it goes back to just, I believe in what I'm doing. I've seen it work enough times.
Hmm.
Again, different strokes for different folks, but I can walk away from that situation now and still feel like, okay, I'll see you at our session. We're going to pick up right where we left off. And I think I've heard a lot of great coaches say this too, and I've always been a big priority of this. Like in these conversations I've had randomly with people on tour, and even more so in the consult room or in sessions, I've learned a little bit about a lot of things. And I don't know if there's anyone in this world, or I shouldn't say in this world, but like in my my paradigm here in Western Canada, that I can't find something that I can speak to with them. And if that boundary is going to be, we're going to chat during our sessions. I'm going to have my check-ins with you. I'm going to motivate you if you're feeling, low or need a push. And in our session, if we don't talk, if we haven't spoken for 4 days, when that session comes up, I'm going to lean into whatever the thing is. I'm going to lean into, if we're talking about, like, I remember a lot of my clients were really getting into crypto when cryptocurrency first came out.
Oh yeah.
Crypto was like a cool gothic word to me at the time. I was like, "Oh, crypt, cool." I didn't know anything. So, but then I learned a little bit, and then in that session, I know that's something that they're going to talk about. I can facilitate a little bit, offer just a little bit of things. Hey, I learned something cool too, and it just really helped. Instead of getting into like, oh, what'd you do on the weekend? Oh, I got totally blasted on White Ave, and it led to this and that. Then you're getting into like stuff that I know for me, I just try to avoid now,
Yeah,
in conversations. But one thing I want to mention here too, and already this is going longer than we had originally planned, and I think
that's
this
okay.
is really important. I think maybe we should do like an episode 1 of this, an episode 2 of this, because all of our friends are trainers, and again, this would have been a really helpful support for me back in the day. But let's say you have a bad day in the gym.
Oh yeah.
What does that look like? Maybe someone asked for, and we're still talking from a commercial perspective here. We haven't even touched private yet.
Mm.
But let's say, your fitness manager is like, hey, this so and so wants a new coach, so and so does this or wants that. Just something that you take as negative. If I could go back to young Rob getting some of that, I would look at my lifestyle. But what I would do, and I think the most important thing, is just show up that next day. My partner has this great saying where it's butts in seats. And I'll be like, oh, I don't have the magic today, and I don't know how I'm going to be this coach, this motivator. I have all these things happen. Just butt in your seat. Get your butt in your seat. Get there. And it's like I would my brain would almost tell me if I didn't have some kind of redemption, like that, some massive grandiose redemption, that I just was done, and I didn't understand career as opposed to job,
Hmm.
where there are going to be months, and there have been months at a time of my year where I'm not feeling any passion towards working out. Coaching can get dull. I'm still like having a good time, and we're making jokes. I'll never live in a
Yeah.
life with no jokes, but um I wish I wouldn't have carried such a heavy burden over such minimal things. Like, hey, your personality is great, Rob, but you're a little bit too energetic for me. I'd rather be with a female or this. And I took it personally, and I shouldn't have. And now I can handle those kind of things because I want everyone to hit their goals, and whether that's with me or not, like, that's totally fine. But it's taken some maturity to get there. And I
Yeah.
wish, instead of, I kind of put my head in the sand, I'd act out, and I just didn't handle it well. And I've seen enough conversations in back rooms now as more like, I guess, experienced trainer, where I've seen some people kind of get dumped by clients, or like have some friction, or why is this not working? Because some clients will put their whole like life onto you, right? Like, oh my god,
Hmm.
my relationship was falling apart. I thought you said my life was gonna get better. That's not your fault, man. Like, that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
But I wish I would have just picked back up, because we were speaking before this pod how, like, it ebbs and it flows, and my passion for the industry is always going to be there, but I'm not the same person I was when I first started, so it's changed.
Hmm.
And when I first started, I was like, I'm only working with hockey and football players. It's like, cool, hockey football players are like 16 years old and have to like beg their parents to train with you. Like, this is not what you want. And I've had some great ones over the years, but now one of my favorite things to do for some reason is like helping people with their knees, and like helping people with their ankles, and this is shit I never thought about. So
Yeah.
your career that you are choosing to do, it's exactly that. It is not just a perfect experience, all this money coming in and out. It is going to be ups and downs, but it's your willingness and your love for it, and your continuous like attitude to keep showing back up, and also like you're constantly learning new things. There are rules that existed back then that are completely laughed at now.
Hmm.
And that, I can't wait to see where it is 10 years from now, and that's why it's such an awesome field. I want to talk to you, we're gonna have to do this in part 1, part 2, but I want to talk to you about program writing, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
how I've seen that cripple people before. It's gotten the best of me. I've had to really make a system of like, on a sunny day, I go to a Starbucks and I hammer them all out right there. And like, the technology's changed, and there's evolving programs and like apps we can use now too. But back in the day, it was write it in a logbook. So
Hmm.
what works best for you, man? And I'm asking this genuinely as a question right now. Like, what's your process for programs?
Yeah, so I would say like when it comes to programming, I would just find times that you feel productive and times that you want to do it. I don't really know if I have some sort of magic thing behind it, to be
Yeah,
honest, because it
yeah,
it obviously is just a part of like what we do and it does take time. But I think when you're in a good flow, just set aside some time and do it. I will always recommend to most people do it in advance.
yeah. Always.
Um, yeah, if you're waiting until last second, there's pressure. So just do it in advance, have something set up for them so that at least that way the client also knows what they're going into next. With a lot of platforms you use now, like you can actually just like preemptively set stuff up in a calendar where it just happens to like shuffle down anyways. So
Yeah,
um, just be more organized. It saves you time, saves you stress, and then the client knows what to expect going into it too. But I'd say the biggest thing is like you can make the best program in the world, but what you're going to realize just as a coach in general is it's the people skills.
yeah,
It's the mindset stuff, it's the behaviors, it's the lifestyle. It's all of those things that are arguably going to be like equally as important, or I would even say more important too, and are going to be more uh, impactful on somebody's progress.
yeah,
So obviously the program that we write is really important too, and the structure of it. But I would almost argue that what we do on like a daily basis for adherence, for accountability, for behavior change, for lifestyle implementation, for nutrition habits and everything, that stuff is the stuff that we need to focus on more.
hmm
And end of the day, man, like people just need to be consistent.
Consistency.
Like
That's it.
you could write the best program in the world, but like if they're not doing it, it doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah, and then it's really up to you and how you want to then address that. Like you at this point, if you've known enough about their personality, you know enough about like it's fun watching people do act the way they do. With
Yeah,
approaching it from zero judgment and only just like observation. It's like, oh, like you do have this little quirk where it's really tough to get you to do this without me sending like a text like to pump you up or like I'll send a couple links to some fun like motivational like old powerlift videos and stuff on YouTube to get them going. One thing that I have said since I would say my first day of Nate, and I think I was just trying to sound like an older cool guy there, but I've really stood by it. But when let's say you call yourself an introvert, and you're just what people would say shy, and that's one part of this industry that you're still going to be an amazing coach. This is not a deal breaker at all. One of the best things I've seen, and I don't know if it was just the personality type I had, and I always tell people that are just starting this out, if they want to hone their people skills, go get your hair done at a salon. The way that a stranger will talk to you as they touch your head, move it, and like again, our hair is like something that if it gets fucked up, we feel bad about, right? So they have high stakes in the game too, but you'll tell these people your life story within like 2 minutes of meeting them. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, and I had a lot of hairdresser friends back then. If I just there's something in how they present to this. But then I thought this, I'm going to them because they are the master of a world that I don't know of cutting hair. So the entire time I'm sitting in the chair, I'm like, whatever you say to me, even if I don't think this haircut is good, I'm going to be, yeah, okay, yeah. And then I remember sitting in one of those chairs and thinking, this is kind of like what like they probably came into this not knowing me, being like, oh my god, I have a 2 o'clock today, never met this person before, it could be nerve-wracking, but I never sensed that for a freaking second. I'm like, oh, blah blah blah, like, and then I leave just like feeling like I had a great conversation and I made a friend. And
yeah,
I took that back and I was like, okay, well, they're coming to me because I appear to them, and in their mind, their perception, to be like an expert of this field. And if that's the case, then I am speaking from that place through it. And if I,
yeah,
in my head, am viewing that, that's some of my best sales, best clients, friendships I've built from there. And I will say too, I have built friendships out of clients before. But the second that bridge is crossed, new trainer for them. So some people will tell you, no, never do this. That's just where I'm coming from. I'm neither here nor there. Do what makes you happy. Um,
yeah. I think
yeah,
like
man.
so I think the soft skills there are like super important. And I think one thing to kind of just like wrap this up, because you kind of alluded to it before too, but like adversity.
Yeah.
And I think just like facing obstacles in this path too. Like
Yep.
the biggest thing is just try to keep an open mind about it. But I think also it does really re-solidify how bad you want to be in this field.
Yeah.
Um, if adversity is facing you, if some sort of challenge or obstacle comes in your path, it does make you realize if you're in the right field or not. And it makes you
Yeah.
realize if you want to stay in coaching. And I think it's really important. You also mentioned it before too, to not internalize stuff. I think a lot of people, myself included too, we like lose a client or we have something happen to, and we take it super personally.
Yeah.
We take it as like some like hit to our ego and some hit to who we are as a person. But oftentimes, like you mentioned, it could just be a compatibility thing. Like somebody could just like somebody else more. They could just not like your coaching style. They could just jive better with somebody else. It might not be that big of a deal, but I think in our mind we tend to make it like this big thing where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, they don't like me. But it's like, well, no, like maybe they're just like a better fit with someone else. Um, and yeah, I'll just say like I always heard this quote a while back too, where they mentioned like having a white belt mentality. It's like I think if you have that mentality, like the white belt mentality coming into this, and if you're always in a sense like pursuing the horizon, right?
Hmm.
There's always so much to learn and to acquire and to develop skill wise too, that you have to just realize that this is just like a part of the journey, a part of the process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whatever you learn, just like learn from it, be better, but also like apply it too, right? It'll make you a better coach regardless whatever happens. So
Absolutely.
whatever happens to you, just take it as something positive, regardless of the context of it. Because maybe in the moment it might not feel like a positive thing,
Yep.
but it will help shape you into a better coach. And we need to see adversity as a positive thing,
Yeah.
versus seeing it as something that is like shaking you in a bad way. But I think it re-solidifies the right things for you and gives you more clarity on why you're in this field.
Yeah. It the adversity is, and this has only been in the last years of my life, like it has been, that's where the teaching happens. And the only bad part about that truly is the feelings that you allow to yourself to feel in it. Now controlling your feelings is no easy task, and it's going to take a lifetime of mastery, but that's all it is. And all it is a feeling that is happening inside your body, an emotion, energy in motion, you know. um and I think the most important thing, yeah, again, is showing up. Bad day,
Yeah,
okay, all right, what can I learn from it? If nothing is the case there and it was out of your control, I'm back the next day. Some of the best fitness leaders I've seen, that's what the advice has been, is it's not about that you screwed up and you're bad, it's about like, what are you going to do now? You know, that's what people look for. That's
it
what I
kind
think.
of ties in that talk that we had with Zach, right? How bad do you want it?
Yeah, exactly. And let's call this part one, and let's just quickly go back to the start. What's your why? Where are you going to work? What's the certifications? And open mind, and understanding that what you're doing now is not forever. This is like, there are people that come, like, especially with our job, that take personal training as a stepping stone, whether it's physio or they want to take it to, fire, or like those are the ones we usually see, Cairo, something like that. But the lifers in here that have turned this into such an incredible career, it's just that consistency. It's the showing up. It's the, okay, like almost like a goalie in hockey. It's like you can't just sit and dwell on every goal that went by you. It has to be completely that, like you said, like white belt mentality. Like just washed it, like over, like let it wash back. Like what, I can't think of the term here. Let it just wash away. You know what I mean? And just
Yeah,
showing up
yeah,
that next
yeah.
day. So your sales are going to be part of your life. So whether you start learning about that now, or, and don't even think about it as an exchange of money, thinking about exchange of like service, and like, and understand your relationship to money is going to dictate so much of your life. And I say that as someone who's like trying to figure all that out now.
Mhm.
Um, so those are the things you can get of ahead of the curve if this is something that's in your head and starting to build. Okay. What do you foresee based on what we've talked about could be maybe an area of growth for you, and how can you then realign, re-strategize to attack that area? And I use words like that because that's how I have to do it. I'm like, oh, I'm scared of investigating like the good and bad side of credit. Okay, well, I'm going to learn everything about it because that's what we
Yeah,
have, and knowledge is power. So I think in part two of these things, we have so much more to talk about. Like, oh my God, consult style. We can talk about the jump to private, all of those cool things. So I foresee this kind of being a cool little like series that we do within the pod of, just for all
yeah,
of our trainers out there. Mad love.
yeah. I think one thing I'm going to leave people with is see the service that you're offering when you're trying to get people to buy into it. It's an investment, not an expense.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's been the biggest change for me too. And it makes it so much easier, I think, in your mind when you think about trying to help somebody out, that they're investing in their health and their future. If you pitch it as an expense, then it just changes the intrinsic value that you place on it. And also too, like the last thing I would say is hire a mentor.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like your skills are lacking and you want to improve your skills, one of the best ways to bring up your skills is hiring someone that has gone through it
Hmm.
and can teach you firsthand. So get off the high horse. First piece of advice is, yeah, get off the high horse and just hire someone. Someone that you look up to, someone that you admire, hire them and seek as much information as you can. And then you will grow a ton as a coach and be able to actually sustain this as a career.
Hell yeah.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys, for listening. We're excited to do this again. And we're excited for this week coming up, too. We got a couple of big people coming on. We're going to have some great conversations. So thank you guys for the support. And we're going to keep slamming these podcasts out.
Thanks, guys.